Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a new video. Welcome to the center of Moscow. I'm here in Moscow City. I'm at the Expo Center, and I've come to check out Prodexpo 2024, the largest food expo in Russia. Let's go for a walk around and see what we can find. Firstly, let me show you the entrance here. This is the main one that leads from the metro and Afia Mall, which is immediately nearby. And just the sheer amount of people coming in here, it almost feels like an airport, and the amount of people coming and going. Now, this expo is held over 8 halls, or conference halls, and this event is massive. It's next level expo attendance, if I compare it alongside a lot of others that I've been to in Moscow and even at this exact expo center. And there's registration going on both sides. And then somewhere is the entrance to get in. The expo today is actually held in every conference hall of the expo center, which is very rare that that happens. It's also held over 2 levels. And there's a lot to cover. I don't think even in this video I can possibly do it. I'll walk around and just highlight some things that I see that are quite unique and just get an idea of how many people are here. The first thing I need to do though is drop off my jacket and hat, because today outside it was very cold and then inside it's beautifully warm and heated. So let me find the coat check and we'll keep walking. I have my ID to get in. It's just a matter of scanning it on the turnstiles and we can go on inside. All right, off we go. Let's follow this magic green carpet to the entrance. Just to give you an idea of the scale of this event and how big it is, they've got another board here with all of the different categories, and each hall basically has a different food or drink category. So there's a pavilion just for pet food. There is one for New Year and Christmas packaging. There's a hall just for vegetable fat. That's kind of interesting. And then, of course, lots of the classic food. There's even a healthy section. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that into the video, but let's see where we end up. I think just from walking in the main entrance, it's going to be very busy and there's going to be a lot of people here. And I think that's probably the point of this video a little bit. I think it'll be impossible to cover all of the different halls in one video, but just to see the amount of people and the curiosity in food and drinks in Russia, I think that's really the intrigue for me. My first task is to give my jacket in at the coat check. This is the one that I always come to. So I always remember where to come back to at the end of the day to collect my jacket. So I have this great idea for a convention in Russia, and it should be a coat check convention. And all the companies around Russia should come and come up with a great idea that automates and speed up coat check. What does everybody think? Should we have a coat check expo? So if you're perhaps watching this as the first video on my channel and you've not seen other videos, there's a very extensive playlist of convention and fairs that I've been to here in Moscow. And if you like this type of video and this style of video, maybe check the playlist for different conventions. Maybe you'll learn something new just from watching one of the old videos on the channel. I'm going to say this a few times in the video, and I think it's going to be a big part of the video as well, is just how many people come out to food and drink expos in Russia, and just the sheer crowds of people. This is like football stadium crowds, and I'm not sure, is there everybody like me just coming for free snacks and free tastings, or are they perhaps coming to do some kind of business here in Russia? I'm just curious, just at the sheer amount of people and where everybody's going and what their reason for coming to an expo is here in Moscow. If you've ever been on the Moscow metro, you'll know that escalators are everybody's favorite means of getting in and out of the stations. And just the amount of people on the escalators. This is more than the Moscow Metro today, I think. It's really hard to decide which hall to start in and try to cover in this one video. It literally will be one video, and however long it comes out to be, it is what it is. And of course, I know I can't show everything. There is thousands of exhibitors at this event. Just look at the amount of people, and this is 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I've barely walked in the first hall, and have a look what I found. Aussie Group, family owned. There's actually an Australian exhibitor here. And if you're from Australia, you probably recognize Cobram Estate, which is a oil company or oil producer. And they're very well known macadamia oil down there. How cool is this? Of all the foreign companies here, there is Aussie Group. What I've decided to do is come up with a little bit of a plan of my walking around these different halls. And I'm going to leave the candy one till later in the video. And then I'm going to leave the beer one till last. So I'm going to have some snacks, some tastings, then I'm going to finish it off, hopefully with some beer, because I'm not driving home. It looks like the first hall I've walked into is the one with cooking oils. And all of the vendors, as I walk down, are all different oil salespeople, I guess is the best word to describe it. And lots of people doing cooking oil sales and transactions. And all of the different stands have their different products available and different size of bottles. I'm not too sure what you talk about when you come to buy oil. Maybe the quality or where it's from. It's always interesting when you see the bigger Expo displays, and normally that's a good sign. They're the bigger companies in the certain market or category, and they have these just huge build-outs and displays, and this one doesn't even have a bottle of oil on display. There's not even any oil here. They've got the beautiful lady though, letting you know about the product. But where's the oil? I think Mr. Rico is the only brand that I know when it comes to oil in the supermarket. And I know my wife's had me buy this a few times, this particular brand. And they've even got so many different types as well. I don't know too much about oils or cooking oils, except coming to a store and buying some. Sometimes even just buying the one that's on special. And that's as complicated as my knowledge is of oils. And have a look at everybody just chilling out and relaxing between oil business and signing contracts. I've walked over to the next pavilion hall, and we've gone from oils now to cereals, and it looks like milk as well. One thing that I'm always curious about is how much products you see in Russia with English words and not necessarily in Russian or Cyrillic. And I just find, calling it green milk when milk is white, I'm not too sure this theory. They've even got some breakfast cereals here. And one thing that's interesting in Russia, breakfast cereals, like you see in this traditional packaging, is not very popular. Because a lot of families and mums see them to be very high in sugar. So a lot of the kids are eating oats and porridges more than traditional breakfast cereal like this. Again, we come across these very big, gigantuous displays in this particular hall. And I think this one has flour, if I'm not mistaken. Have a look at the size of this thing. It's huge. And they've got one bag of flour on display at the whole counter, let's call it. I'm fairly sure this is the brand of porridge that my wife eats. Now, I'm going to have to rack my brain to remember what the brands are that we've got in our cupboard at home. I think it might be this one. I definitely recognize the type of rice my wife has. It's this one right here, and it's the one with the Balinese dancer on the front. And quite often it's quite hard to find in a lot of supermarkets. All the other choices are available, but the one with the Bali dancer, that's how I always remember which one it is. The crowds seem to never stop, even in this flour and cereal and rice section, and the amount of people that are interested in flour and rice here in Russia. It's very curious and interesting for me. I know it feels like I'm repeating it and saying it over and over, but there is just such a curiosity to, so many people coming to this one event. Looks like I found Spice World, and all of the stands around me here have different herbs and spices. And I'm curious who their market is, or who they're trying to sell to, when, of course, in Russia there's 5 or 6 main supermarket companies, and who else will be here in Russia who they can find a market and who they can sell them to. Once all the supermarkets have their selection, do they need more? Now, I'm not sure if I'm going in Hall 2 or Hall 3. There's a pretty interesting sign right here. Foreign National Pavilion. And all the different countries that are here selling their products or promoting their products. And Serbia, Turkey, of course, China is going to be at every convention that I ever possibly go to. Is there something that China can't make? Okay, so it looks like I'm going in Hall 2, which is meat and sausages and pet meat. Let's focus on seeing some meat and sausages and salami, shall we? Now, the one thing we're guaranteed in this hall, unlike all the previous ones, is they're going to have some sampling and some tasting, versus going into the oil pavilion where you're not going to be tasting oils, are you? Let's see if we can get a little bit of something to taste right here. So it looked like I got my first tasting of the whole expo after walking around. Chicken and cheese salami. These are always good. These string version ones, they're good for a snack. It beats a Snickers or a Mars any day. I think if you've watched any of my supermarket videos, I show quite extensively all of the different hams and salamis and cured meats. And this looks like the pavilion where all these companies have joined forces together. And there's display after display of meat companies, I think, is that the right word? I wonder who gets to sit upstairs on the second level. They got the fancy seats and the chairs there. And the one thing I do recognize is a Webbecue. I actually bought my sister and husband one of these for a Christmas present one year. These are the best barbecues. And this desktop version, they're pretty cool. You can see there's a lot of fascination with meats and cured meats and smoked meats, just for the amount of people walking through the exhibition. And you'll see here most of the companies have one glass fridge like this, where they're showing how their packaging is. I think a lot of the important part about selling these is the packaging and how they look on the shelf and how they draw your attention. So the smartest thing to do when you come to one of these expos is don't have lunch before you get here. Don't even have breakfast. And then as you walk around, you can sample all the different types of foods they have on offer. Sometimes you feel like you're actually in a supermarket when you're walking around. Each company has one setup right here and one type of their brand on display. They're so beautiful looking too. And then if you manage to get an appointment with the people, you can sit down, have a coffee, and buy some meat. Now I really want to rush home and go and have a look in the fridge at the different brands that we buy and the different names of companies that are on the packaging. Because when I go to the supermarket, I'm not particularly good at reading Russian brand names, and Now I'm super curious after coming here, all of these different meat and salami vendors, which are the ones that are in my local store, because there's probably 50 or more different companies as I've walked around. It looks like they also have different types of packaged meats, and a lot of these ones are in different marinades. And in Russia we like to do what's called shashlik. So we like to get the meat that's in a marinade, put it right on the barbecue, and it's heaven. Now, if you've not had shashlik before, book a ticket, come to Russia, and get invited to somebody's house to have shashlik. By a very long way, Miratok is the biggest meat producer in Russia. And they even have their own supermarkets, they have their own burger restaurants, and I actually had a chance to go to the 100 by Miratok Burger Cafe recently and made a video, and it's very much a McDonald's replacement in Russia, and that video got a few 100,000 views, and there's so many people curious about the 100 by Miratok brand, and they've got a very big display here. Of course, the biggest meat producer in Russia. It's really interesting to see their display. You know that they're a big company and a big display here when they've got their own cafe set up, and they've even got a grill master in the back doing the meats, and I imagine some people are even getting invited for lunch. Oh, imagine if I could sit down and have a Miratok burger right now. Now maybe I need to give a bit of a warning here. The video is showing the meat production and the factory, and this particular company has duck, or duck meat. And if my dad is watching, the duck at the Chinese restaurant is his favorite dish on the menu, and he always tells the lady, I need the plum sauce on the side. But that's his favorite food at the Chinese in Australia. That was super interesting. I just had a nice conversation with the guy here from this duck meat company, and he was talking about, you know, where the ducks are from, and I asked him, does he have any Australian ducks? And he was like confused for a second, and he said that they're actually French ducks, and they're actually bred in Russia, so they're French ducks with a Russian passport. I think I might have walked into the alcohol pavilion, or at least perhaps wine and cognacs, and you can probably hear here slightly louder everybody's conversations. I think after a few glasses, you know, everybody gets a little bit more louder and more rowdy. And have a look, all of the wines and all of these different wine companies. Now I've just barely walked in. And actually have a look. Portugal right there. So I wonder if some of these are international companies that are displaying their brands. I really hope the volume and the sound is coming out okay in this hall. It is quite a bit louder. Check this out. They've got string quartet here for this stand. How cool is that? Perhaps the Armenians know how to do it and how to do it well. Have a look at their stand and display. How cool is this? It's got wooden floors, marble walls, and then the quartet playing here. That is very neat. Has anybody heard of Elvis Whiskey before? That's an interesting name. Elvis Whiskey. I wonder if maybe the Elvis estate has a hand in the branding or not. And as I walk around more, there is basically alcohol distributors or redistributors, and they have all the different international brands that they import and then on sell to the domestic market in Russia. And I just noticed up here from Bermuda, they've got Gosling rum, Gosling Black Seal. This is very nice rum if anyone gets a chance to taste it. David, are you ready for your shout out in this video and my ode to Italy? They have Italy B. Now, of all the beautiful things I think of Italy, I was hoping the stand was a little bit more interesting and engaging, but they simply just have Italian wines in the cupboard, and that's about it. And a couple of ladies selling Italian wines, I imagine. They do look like they've got sampling going on, just from a few different choices. It's definitely much more calmer as you walk towards the back of this pavilion, and wine tasting is a little bit more casual, and you know, the guys talking about their brand and their type of wine. As two different people are talking on the PA at the same time. They've got these bars set up as well where they serve their different drinks, and you'll see there's people chilling and hanging out and taking it easy, and at some point making sure they get a drink of something. Have a look at this one over here with all the different products. I think, is this from Dominican Republic? Mama Jama? Someone needs to let us know in the comments. And I think this one again possibly is a multi-brand importer of spirits. Just looking at all the products they have, there is virtually no domestic products and lots of imported stuff. I'm trying my hardest to find Australian wine here, and imagine there is booth after booth of wines, and I can't seem to find any Australian wines. What's going on? They must be here hiding somewhere. Have a look at this setup. They've got it closed off with curtains. They got nice tables set up, and they've got a sommelier back there doing the wine tasting. They've even got someone on the door as well that has to check when you come inside. This is pretty cool. And the sommelier here doing the tasting. Looks like I found a booth with Indian products. An Indian-made rum, an Indian-made whiskey. Is it even possible that the Indians are making vodka? Come on, don't be stealing Russia's main business and start making Indian vodka. This might be interesting for some, and perhaps people that are not in Russia and understand a lot of the companies that have left Russia, particularly Diageo, Louis Vuitton, and then down here Bailey's, and there's Jim Beam, Jack Daniels there. So these are all the absolute, probably most known worldwide brands of alcohols, and they have Alkaway, and I would imagine that these people or this company do parallel importing of these, and you can see literally the products. And how many people keep telling me there's a shortage of Baileys in Russia, and there's a bottle right in front of me. As I slowly make my way out of the alcohol and wine section and look for another pavilion, I found something quite interesting right here. And this company is an importer of mostly foreign products, and all the ones we've just seen were all wine and alcohol and quite similar. And you see he has some dishwashing tablets, some coffee, and even Corona beer, which is very readily available in Moscow and throughout Russia. And then again, some of the other well-known international brands right here. And Nutella, and even Haribo in the back there. The twin cherries. Oh, I like them a lot. So what I think's happened is with some of these smaller booths around these larger companies, there's a lot of multi-brand importers of products that are trying to find a market. Hello! they're trying to find a market here in Russia and, you know, trying to bring all these Western brands that have left Russia back to Russia, or did they ever leave? Looks like the next pavilion that I've walked into has a lot of traditional foods, so a lot of canned foods, a lot of food in jars, and a lot more food for cooking, and pretty much a lot of things that I don't normally buy in stores, especially things like canned meat and canned fish. It's not really even some of my favorite foods to eat. Maybe for my wife, she enjoys things here in Russia more than I do, in terms of the different brands that are so well known throughout the years in Russia. And not quite as busy over this way either, and a little bit quieter than it was in the wine section. I think obviously after a few drinks the volume just slowly raises. And let's have a look what we can find. Pickles. And check that out. The guy's got some trophies for pickle producing. I wouldn't have even thought there's a pickle event going on. And lots of people in the middle section here. Now, I keep changing between settings on my phone because a lot of the different build-outs have got different LED lights that tend to affect the outcome of the video. So keep going between one setting and the other. There is such a curiosity about all the different people here and all the different types of just canned meats. How many types of canned meats are there possibly in Russia? I would not even thought there's this many available. Now we might be coming into some of the things that I know about, some of the different drinks and the endless amounts of Russian cola that are now in the Russian market. And I think possibly we're getting closer to the beer pavilion. Just walking around and having a little bit closer at some of the different stands. Let's see, this seems to be a bit of a mixed pavilion. So food and drinks. Of course, again, this is a product expo, so it's going to be natural that there's going to be some crossover. Looks like somebody here with microbrewers from a microbrewery. I can't get the words out. What are these guys doing? Maybe some sort of juices, I think, or drinks. I'm not sure. So I ended up with a couple of these cocktail bags. They're basically pre-mixed alcohol drinks, and they're only 5.5%, so they're low proof. But as the gentleman said, they're drinks for traveling because they're in these pouches and you're not worried about glass or something breaking. It looks like I've got a couple of cocktails that I can try at home, or at least give to my wife to try. I feel like I've walked around the whole expo, and this is the only place I see that's got caviar. And I haven't noticed it anywhere else walking around at all. And it's perhaps just, it isn't a thing at these expos to maybe sell caviar to other Russian companies. Super interesting. This is the very famous black caviar, which is the premium of all the caviars. I've never actually had black caviar. Can you believe it? All the years I've lived here, all I've had is the red caviar. I think a lot of people may know this Beluga brand. Let me know in the comments. Back about a year ago, I went to an event in Moscow where they had Lada car racing. And this gentleman had a burger stand there. And as I've been walking around, he recognized me because, of course, how many Australians go to Lada racing and then make their way to the food section? And look what he made for me. A hot dog. Well, very classic hot dog, but this guy is really a well-known chef here in Moscow. And now of all the tasting that I've done so far today, I've only taken one bite, but this hot dog is good. And the fact that the guy there making the hot dogs actually recognized me from a year ago here at an event in Moscow, even better. And what is a Russian convention without beautiful girls or beautiful devushkas? And have a look, everybody watching, maybe some more smiling than others. I think they've already done a lot of smiling. It's a little bit later in the afternoon now, so, oh, more waving. So nice. Let's have a look at the buildings that make up Moscow city here. It's actually a really beautiful sunny day. It's just incredibly cold, around about -15, maybe close to -20 Celsius today with a bit of wind chill. But beautiful view of Moscow city. And then coming inside to the nice warm pavilion. This one's quite a bit quieter than the ones we've seen previously. This one has different drinks and juices and sodas, I think somewhere. I literally have just walked in, so I didn't really see it too closely. But there's lots of different types of drinks, that's for sure. Have a look at the display here. I wonder if they're an importer of all of the different Western items. Actually, have a look here. This is quite interesting. This is Whisper, which is a candy bar from England, which I don't even know if I've seen that in Russia before now. That's quite interesting. Just looking at this brand a little bit closer, Asiano, and the reference, I thought it was a Russian word or a meaning, but it really references the different fruits in the drinks that are typically coming from Asia. Kiwi fruits, of course bananas are very well known, and all the different tropical fruits that they're putting into their drinks. And just the look of them and the lighting and the color of them makes you want to drink one, right? Does anyone have a favorite? Maybe watermelon, mandarin, raspberry, lots of choices. This is the beer from Cool Cola, or from the brand Ochakova, who make Cool Cola. And the actual factory is not too far from where I live in Moscow. And he looks pretty happy to be here. And I'm not too sure what dance moves he's pulling off, but if anyone doesn't know, Cool Cola has been around a lot of years in Russia. And with the disappearance of other cola brands in Russia, Cool Cola and Street has come really to the front in terms of sales in Russia. Seems like a lot of these different stands in this drink pavilion are really focused on different fruits and tropical fruits, and a lot of the drinks are not quite as sugar-based and a lot more natural, and even to a point they're telling me some of them are healthy. I always find that hard to comprehend, that something is healthy. And then more of these tonics, and have a look, also some imported drinks down there, some Coca-Cola and Fanta, and then I think also here some energy drinks. I've never drunk energy drinks in my life, not even these well-known energy drinks that people are taking. I don't even know the names of them, and I just don't understand the need for them, you know, to have that instant boost. And lots of different types. Looks like the battery. And then Dr. P and Dr. R, maybe that's his cousin, I wonder. After all the walking around so many different halls, I finally found the Australian stand, Aussie Group. And have a look there. Probably the most famous brand, Bundaberg, ginger beer, and then also cobram oils. These are in all supermarkets in Australia. They're absolutely normal, typical oils. But how interesting. Australian products. Wow. Very interesting to see Australian items here in Moscow. If you do get a chance to buy any oils that are Australian branded or a company, try macadamia oil. I can assure you it's very nice. One of the last pavilions I'm going to come to is actually a temporary pavilion. Have a look at the size of this building that they put here. And this is the beer pavilion. And I think some of the different alcoholic and non-alcoholic beers. And this is all that this pavilion has. And you can see again how popular it is. And from the last couple of pavilions that were much quieter and more subdued, you come over to the drinks and alcohol one, and suddenly the noise raises up just a little bit. A lot of these different vendors here are also more microbrew companies. They're not necessarily mainstream and something that you may know in the local alcohol shop or beer shops in Moscow and in Russia. So a lot of them are much smaller producers who are looking for a new market in Russia. And we'll see here now where they've got these beer taps, and everybody, especially later in the afternoon, wants to come in here and start having a drink and a beverage. So there is some bigger companies here. They've also got some of the videos showing their manufacturing. Looks like they do more than just beer, maybe some types of waters and colas and juice, carbonated drinks. And then as we go a little bit further down, it really is like feels like a beer garden kind of festival kind of place. It's quite different from all of the food pavilions that we've seen. And they're doing tasting and sampling. And there's this guy walking by as well. It's quite random. Let's see if we can at least get through here to get out of here as well. And the music starts to get a bit louder. And the people's happiness sort of goes up a few notches. This company's even built themselves what looks like a small pub. This is very nice. The beer bar. Nothing too complicated about it. Beer on tap, and help yourself to a sample. Now, a lot of these companies probably not necessarily trying to sell the brand, but more give a little bit of a brand awareness to the different types of beer that they're producing. One of the good things about coming to the different beer stands is you can have a chat with the staff, and a lot of them are so passionate about beer generally and what they're producing and making and what they're trying to get across in their drinks. I think possibly this company has a lot of imported drinks here. Have a look at how many choices of definitely not Russian produced. Wow, it's very loud in here. All the different Fantas. And they've even got Iron Brew here from Scotland. How crazy is that? Wow. There's definitely not a shortage of drinks in Russia. It's definitely interesting, the different people that are here at this particular pavilion, and you know, are they here purely just to taste and drink beer, or are they trying to perhaps be a buyer that they can put it into bars and perhaps all the different pubs throughout Moscow and beyond? There's the owners that are looking for new brews to put in their bar and in the taps. I'm very curious at the crowd as we walk through. As I walk towards the exit, and one last pavilion. I hope it's not a 2-hour video. I hope it's a little bit less. Have a look at the beautiful buildings of Moscow City again. And that blue sky, which we've not seen for about 2 weeks. So blue skies are always good, but it only means one thing when it's blue skies. It is very cold. And you'll see people rugged up like they're going to Siberia because of how cold it is outside. Now I conveniently left this to the end because it's the last pavilion before the coat check and to leave the whole Expo Center. And I thought I'd come and have a look at the candy section and see what we can find in here. Lots of different stands with biscuits and snacks and crackers and different foods. And it's really quite mellow in here and subdued. All the different candy manufacturers and distributors. And as I walk by, I just see chocolate. Whoa, very nice. What we're trying to find is some chocolate. Maybe we'll find some chocolate somewhere. Seems to be just lots of sweet and sugary candy. Does anybody like sour ropes? It's not something I really particularly like, but I guess if that's all you can find. Like marzipan candy here as well. So I think a lot of people heard of gummy bears. But have you heard of Big Bear?
Because we can.
Maybe it's gummy bear's friend or cousin, I wonder. And what's interesting is it's made in Germany. Check that out. Maybe it is a cousin of the gummy bear and the Haribo brand. It's very interesting as I'm seeing all these different vendors for the candy and sweets. And I think a lot of people know Nutella. But have you heard of Ramella? Someone needs to let me know, maybe in a different country where you live, that you've seen this brand before. Perhaps I've come across the health food section, or really healthy chocolate. Who else likes chocolate without sugar? I think it shouldn't be allowed, but I guess there's a market for it somewhere to have healthy chocolates and healthy snacks. And it seems like there's quite a few of them in this little section here. Thai style. What have they got? Thailand foods, it looks like. Oh, coconut milk. Okay, that I recognize. Not too sure about some of the others. Maybe all from Thailand. Looks like another energy snack company. Kick Your Energy. It's an interesting name. And again, it's basically half in English and half in Russian Cyrillic, the wording on the packaging. Does anybody like all of these different energy bars and energy snacks? Maybe you're a person that goes to the gym and this is part of your routine. More healthy foods. I feel like I walked into the wrong pavilion. All the healthy snacks are here. And lots of different bars. I wonder, again, this English wording on a lot of the packaging. This mix of Russian words. What are these? No sugar drinks with keratin. I wish I knew more about these different healthy products. Maybe I'll be a few kilos lighter. There's another company I've come across here with slightly different wording on their chocolate bars and candy bars. And it's simply called bars. And that's it. Very simple wording that they've used. They just seem to have a bit of a similarity in packaging to some other brands. And down here they've got the coconut one here, looks very similar to Bounty. As I make my way out towards the exit, the candy stands continue. And a lot of the candy at these different stands are all the sweet and sugary candy that really are more for the children and young kids, and lots of different gummy candy and interesting bears and monkeys up here, and not probably something that I really enjoy, all these sweet and sugary ones, but there is plenty of companies and vendors. There's one here with biscuits and different treats and sweets. I think possibly this one is from Turkey. Have a look at how red it is as well. They're really promoting the flag of Turkey. Everything is flashing and shining. And they look like they make marshmallow candy here. Alpella. Has anybody heard of this name? Let me know in the comments. There's actually a company here with wafer biscuits, and they're called Lele. Not too sure where they're from, but it's very interesting. There's quite a lot of these wafer biscuits here in Moscow, but Lele is quite an interesting name, I think. Okay, everybody, as I literally come around the last corner to the coat check and I'm heading on home, I really hope you found this video interesting. I really hope it's not too long. It's a very big expo. It would probably deserve about 4 or 5 videos in total, and I've tried to make it just into one video, and hopefully that comes across and gives you an idea of the amount of people that were here and the amount of different products and different countries that were represented. Post a comment, let me know what you think of this type of video. Do you want to come to more events like this? Do you want to watch more events on the channel like this? Maybe have a look at some conventions in Moscow and let me know some ideas of some that I can come to. Now the coat check is right behind me. It's a little bit quieter than it was when I came here, so it should be nice and easy to get my jacket. If you want to follow me on Telegram, there's a link right here. You can click that and have a look at some of my day-to-day goings on and events and what I'm doing. And if you want to see an old video on the channel, click that right here. Something perhaps you've not seen before, something a little bit older, maybe more than a year ago. You can watch that now. Thanks, everybody. Bye.